Lucilius's blade level 5 has received a couple of buffs. To start, the damage on it has been increased. Instead of applying a 120% damage bonus, it now gives a 130% bonus. That bonus now also applies to ultimate skills, skybound arts, and super skybound arts. To demonstrate this, we're going to do the same corner combo in the old version of the game and the new version. This way we get a good sense of how much an extra 10% damage it affects his combo routes, as well as we're able to see what happens when you give this bonus to his super skybound art. Before, this route would do 8,690 damage. This is the current patch damage. Now we get 9,605 damage, almost an increase of 1,000 damage overall for Lucilius. Additionally, once Lucilius reaches blade level 5, his Scariot, particularly the medium and heavy version, is buffed. Before the blades in tow, you'd have a simple knockdown situation like this. This is a pretty classic combo ender for Lucilius. This is how it behaves in the current version. As you can see, it's now used to extend combos with a ground bounce. This completely reworks Lucilius' combo routing before, as what once was a combo ender for him can now be used as that or as a combo extender. You'll have to note, though, that you can't link this directly into a skybound art or a super skybound art. This means for routing purposes, if you want to be able to link into these supers, this can't be the last move before combo limit is reached. With the increased damage and the Scariot property change, Lucilius truly feels like a boss character once he gets to blade level 5. With some other changes to his kit, this is actually very practical for him to reach within a single round as well. The pushback on his crouching M on counter hit has been reduced as well. At point blank range, you could link into a close heavy before.
Great.
At range, however, you would notice the pushback. Lucilius could reliably link into his far medium, far light, or into his 6XL from here. As you might have guessed, ideally you'd like to be able to link it to 6XL, as you're able to then go into a close light attack in the previous version and then special cancel from there, adding on extra hits as opposed to just doing a single normal into a special. However, with the old pushback, if you hit this button at maximum range, it could be hard to get that 6XL link in the first place. Doable as you can see, but a little tricky. Because of the risk of dropping your link into 6XL, you might instead just opt for the far simpler and auto-timed 5M conversion. It would shorten your overall combo route, but not dropping the combo meant that if you were able to simply confirm, you were getting more damage consistently as it was. The reduced pushback is noticeable in the new version. While this doesn't really change anything for Lucilius at close range, This does have implications for him at the maximum range of his poke. It feels a lot more consistent to chain 6-6L from this situation with reduced pushback. Additionally, with the system mechanic change that allows every character to chain their close medium from a 6-6L at close ranges, Lucilius is actually within this range to do so. This link is still tricky at maximum range. To make it easier, I recommend that you use the dash macro in order to get the fastest possible timing for your 6L. Being able to do this within a single frame of inputs as opposed to having to press the forward button twice makes a massive difference. This JU also sees some changes to make it easier to use in combos. Namely, it has more hits done than before, the lateral knockback has been reduced, launch height has been increased, and there's even extra knockback reduction on counter hit to make it more valuable as an air-to-air. Considering that Lucilius has long cooldowns on his special moves, he appreciates being able to use a jump normal attack off of some of his conversions to go ahead and launch the opponent to extend his combo routes even further. However, the ability to actually make use of this was a little limited before. In a situation like this, if you wanted to use this to increase your corner carry, you basically had to try and get a close medium link. But that could be tricky to achieve sometimes. Now, it's a fairly trivial thing to do. This utility is primarily useful to give you corner-to-corner conversions that also deal more damage than some of the old loop routes that he would use. A lot of really cool potential here for Lucilius. Shoutouts to Witch Hazy on Twitter for the tech. If you use this move as an air-to-air, the counter hit property now means the opponent basically falls straight to the ground.
Great.
Considering that this is a very fast normal, with 7 frames startup, Lucilius appreciates being able to threaten meaningful damage with this move in the air. Even on normal hit, there's some potential. Depending on the heightened situations, you can sometimes get a close heavy to link, you can get a close medium to link, sometimes you can only rely on a far light to reach. It's something where you're going to have to get very familiar with this move before you get comfortable at what heights do you need what normals to follow up on. Lucilius' dash heavy sees a couple of changes as well, namely to the lateral knockback and the launch height. Both of those have been reduced. He now also comes to a full stop when connecting. Before, this normal and mid-screen didn't have too much utility. Pretty hard to get any sort of link here. In the corner, though, you can basically use it as a launcher in some combo routes. Or perhaps even as a move against an airborne opponent. Now in mid-screen, a pickup is pretty much guaranteed. Apart from it being a bit of combo fodder that he can use potentially to get launches on the opponent, it's also a pretty safe move to throw out a neutral. It's only -4 on block and you're spaced out, so you're pretty safe being able to use this. Of course, it is competing with your 6-6L, which is plus on block, and your 6-6M, which is a low. But if you're looking for a high damage combo starter, perhaps 6-6H has a place in his toolkit now in the mid-screen. The patch notes say that they buffed the medium version of Iblis so that you're able to combo from a maximum range 5M poke into it. However, that doesn't seem to be the actual outcome of these changes. The actual buffs to it are to its active frames, projectile speed, reach, as well as launch height on final hit. It gains 10 more active frames and goes a little farther than it did before, and with the increased speed, it is able to reach in some situations where it couldn't before. Compare that to before. A very stubby fireball that was gone in the blink of an eye. At least now it feels like it has more of a mid-screen presence potentially. Airborne opponents are launched higher after the final hit of his heavy fireball now. This probably is just there to improve combo consistency for him. The following combo was possible in the previous version of the game. I think with this buff it's just a little easier to get more consistently at times. The heavy version of Phosphorus sees a couple of buffs as well. It does more damage. Before, it did 700 and 800 damage for a total of 15. Now, it does 1,000 damage on each hit, raising the total damage to 2,000. You'll also notice that there's some differences in its behavior on hit as well. Namely, they made it so that the move now ground bounces and the knockback has been adjusted. In mid-screen in the current version, the opponent is clearly farther back than they were before. However, the ground bounce is important for Lucilius, as he's now able to use this move as a launcher in combos. While the mid-screen utility is basically non-existent for this, the corner is where it truly shines.
Excellent.
Lucilius appreciates this as giving him yet another way to launch the opponent for combo extensions. Again, this is a character with longer than average cooldowns at the initial start of the game, so being able to have as much combo utility across all of these special moves of his as possible is something that he greatly needs. It's also worth mentioning that Phosphorus' heavy version has been sped up by 2 frames. Before, it started up in 20 frames. Now it starts up in 18. This potentially means that you're going to be able to link it in combos in places that you weren't before, so be on the lookout for those changes. Ultimate Phosphorus is Lucilius' only reversal outside of supers, and it was actually hard to access at times. Alongside having the 50% SBA gauge cost, if Lucilius ever used his Gold Blade from his 5U stance, he could not then use Ultimate Phosphorus, as that was a sword used within that special. This basically deterred Lucilius from ever using this Golden Blade. If he used it and then suddenly had the tables turned on him during its cooldown, he didn't have access to a reversal and the opponent was safe to pressure him. Now, even if you use the Golden Sword, you can still use Ultimate Phosphorus. The Golden Sword will even respawn to Lucilius immediately after the move. This is a great change for him. Now he's able to use the Golden Sword freely in his offense without worrying about compromising his defense. I'm sure most of you are aware of this change already. However, now that we've gotten to this notes in the patch notes, it's time to talk about Scariot. This is a bread and butter combo move for Lucilius, and we saw that the buffs they received when it was at level 5. However, it now is able to get you to level 5 faster because every time you're able to connect into a medium or heavy Scariot, your blade level increases by 1. This is massive for Lucilius. Before, Lucilius would slowly build up to his blade level gauge throughout the course of a match, and it would be a very rare instance where he would actually be able to get to level 5. With this simple change, now he's able to very consistently get to his level 5 power spike and have access to his extra damage, and there's even more reward since his Scariots, as we've seen, are able to combo in mid-screen and the corner as well. This is honestly a great way of making sure that players are able to experience a full-powered Lucilius consistently within their matches. I don't really have the opportunity to show this change off, so if Lucilius player could let us know in the comment section where this particular interaction would occur, we'd appreciate it. There's now a hitbox on Lucilius' back for the second hit of his heavy Tessera. The patch notes say that this is to reduce whiffs, so I imagine there's probably some of the smaller characters where he could go for this option and it would whiff on them by mistake. So it's nice to see that they're trying to make sure that there's a little less jank in the kit overall. Orbital Resonance was a risky thing for Lucilius to use at times because it put him to a counter hit state after frame 19. It no longer does that. So now you're not risking taking any sort of huge heavy counter hit in some situations by going for this option, making it overall more appealing to use. Pretty huge difference, as you can tell. Light Orbital Resonance has a few buffs as well. Before, if you hit the opponent with it, they would remain on the ground, and this didn't really give it too much utility. You were just +2. You couldn't really make an approach with this frame advantage, getting closer to the corner, or anything like that. The opponent would just take a little hit. Now, it actually launches the opponent on hit. So now you're able to build up a little bit of space to create more zoning opportunities, or try to advance on the opponent as well. It's just a nice little bit of utility that the move now has. The recovery has also been sped up. It basically recovers about just under 2 seconds faster, making it far more spammable. Orbital Resonance's medium follow-up also sees some buffs, namely against mid-air opponents. The hit stun has been increased by 2 frames, and the launch height and pull strength on the second hit have been increased. I think this is so that if the opponent tries to jump out of this pressure to avoid the plus frames, before, Lucilius didn't really get a confirm off of this. And now he can pretty easily confirm off of this airborne hit. Aside from the utility of now being able to properly combo against someone who failed to jump out of your pressure, this also means that he has potential to use this in combos against an airborne opponent. I'm interested to see what he's able to use with this change. Additionally, I should mention as well that the blade recovery for the medium follow-up has been reduced by 50 frames, so just under a second. It's still fairly long, but he appreciates, again, having more access to his tools overall. The final change to Lucilius is to Axion Control. Now if you hold the input down during the cutscene, you're able to get it out on the earliest possible frame.
Great.
It's a nice quality of life not having to worry about mash or time this out to make sure you get your combos correct. With these changes, Lucilius really feels like a fully realized character in this patch. Before, he felt a little bad to play because you very rarely ever got to see him get to Blade level 5, and even if you did, you didn't get too much of a reward for it. Now that he's able to use the medium and heavy Scariot to snowball his game plan to get to those blade levels sooner, and then once he gets to level 5, he does increased damage, as well as has new combo routes with the Scariots overall, revamping the tools to being these combo enders to level him up, and now being part of his bread and butter sequences. It's really cool to see. He has so much more utility in his kit as well, which is incredibly important, because he needs to use multiple skills in order to get his combos going because of his longer than average cooldowns. So being able to use more of his moves to start combos, to extend them as well, is massive for him overall. And the fact that he has consistent defense as well is pretty important in the form of his ultimate Phosphorus change. I'm really excited to see what the character can do in the next patch, and I think that we're going to see a lot of players return to this super cool character to see what they can uncover with him going forward. Welcome to the game, Lucilius.